sometimes, if they're fortunate, they have one really smart guy, right? If they're fortunate. That guy needs vacations. Had an MSP the other day. Yeah, I've been here 9 years. I'm the level 3 guy, never had a vacation, ever. And he's like, I'm just about to pass out. I just can't do it anymore. He said, I'm thinking about quitting. He didn't want to tell the owner. I go to the owner and said, you're going to lose this guy. I didn't say, he told me he's going to leave. I said, you are going to lose this guy. I mean, it is hands down 9 years. This guy's gone. He's like, but I pay him good. I said, nobody gets paid for 9 years and doesn't go on vacation ever. We've had a couple of sick days. I'm like, and the fact that that's in your head is a problem.
Hey guys, Damian Stevens, host of MSP Mindset. And this is a special series where we got to spend time at the Start, Grow, Manage Summit and record live with some amazing MSPs. Special shout out to Joe and Jeff at Start, Grow, Manage for having us here and letting us spend the time with these MSPs. Today, I have the gift of speaking with Keith Willis at ECX Systems.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Thank you for taking time out, especially at SGM Summit, when I know you have so many other things to do.
I am enjoying all of the people. It's fantastic. I'm meeting so many cool people. The people here have been amazing.
Speaking of kind of amazing, you take us through. You at one point built an MSP and then...
I've done a lot. Okay. I'm kind of a crazy person. Don't ever decide that you want to do things the Keith Willis way. That's probably the fastest way to not do things. The age of 19, I built a Novell consulting business in Austin, Texas.
Novell Network. Okay.
I decided somehow that was a good thing. I don't know why. Had all these commercial real estate companies. Ultimately decided, this isn't good enough. I'm making incredible money and not going to college. Why don't I... abandoned my engineering degree at one semester left. Why don't I build an internet company? What a great idea, right? So I started an internet company in Corpus Christi, built the largest internet provider in Corpus Christi, Texas in 1995.
So you see internet provider, that's back in the dial-up.
Back in the dial-up days. Okay. Big time dial-up. Built an ISP.
I can relate to that.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Everybody's with the long modem sounds. My fault. Built lots of, and so I did that for a couple of years. Left that and started flying around the country building other internet providers for other people, right? Once I had kind of built that, that sounds like MSPs, right? It's a very similar model. And I built all these internet companies. I was helping people like Earthlink. I had a contract with Verizon. I had GTE. I was doing fingers to keyboard stuff. I ended up ultimately hired about a dozen people, built a company that was based out of East Texas, but I had no customers in East Texas. It was all over. It was all telecom. .com thing happened and pretty much put me in the poorhouse.
Oh, wow.
I had to start over.
Wow.
I had 3 kids and it's time to start over again. And fortunately for me, go ahead.
Now, what do you mean by that? Like income dried up? Or,
you have
employees and you can't make payroll?
The story is fantastic. I could speak a whole hour on that. I literally sat in my office as the planes are crashing into buildings for the next 3 days fielding phone calls. It's been great working with you, Keith. We've loved working with you. You're fantastic. We're closing our doors today. Click, next.
Wow.
And it was internet provider after internet provider after internet provider. And it's an interesting side effect. When 9/11 happened, people started tightening their belt, all right? A la Netflix, right? I'm going to quit subscribing to Netflix because somehow I'll survive better if I don't have Netflix, right? I need to buy more toilet paper. None of those things equal anything,
right?
But they all canceled their internet provider, right? Because back then, internet provider wasn't a utility. It was still kind of cool.
Yeah.
When you canceled your internet provider, what you didn't know was your internet provider had a $30,000 a month AT&T bill he could no longer pay, all right? Well, when 80% of your dial-up cancels, you have 2 choices. Somehow find a way to pay the $30,000 AT&T bill or close your doors. And most of them opted to close their doors. Hence the consolidation we have today. That's why there's all these gigantic providers and no small ones left. All right. The .com crash ultimately was the cause. So I ended up ultimately getting recruited by the government, worked in the top secret world for about 4 years, which is a fascinating story, a whole nother fascinating story. I have the whole interview story being blindfolded and everything.
Oh, wow.
Left that in 2008. I was doing fine financially, but really what it boiled down to is I wasn't making a difference and I never saw my children. It was that simple. And so I said, well, what can I do I've got all these skills. I know how to run a business. I love to consult. I still had a handful of consulting customers that had kind of survived with me through this transition from back in the day into current. And so I started a company to solve other IT people's problems. I kind of viewed I had this interesting view of the world. I kind of believe that everyone can kind of technically get there if they want to, right? But there's a level of effort that it requires, and most internet provider or most MSPs or most technical people are often caught in the middle, right? They're trying to implement a bunch of other people's solutions. So you've got vendor A and vendor B and vendor C all vying for the business. They're all trying to integrate, and they're all pointing to each other. And the guy in the middle's got his hands up in the air, his hair is on fire. I don't know what's going on. What are you trying to do? And vendor A is blaming vendor B. Well, I call that the gray area of technology. I don't know why I do that, but I've called it for years. Nobody wants to own it, right? And ultimately, it falls to the shoulders of this IT integrator who usually his job is to just to be the IT person, right? I'm just trying to solve these IT problems for my business.
Right.
Whether he's an employee or whether he's the MSP that's in the mix, he's the IT guy. Well, I got very, very good at being that translator and solving that gray area, like very good. And started training people how to do that. I built a consultancy around that. But the shift of the economy makes that consulting revenue kind of hard, right? You get these, your balance sheet looks like a sine wave, and you got $1,000 in one month and $50,000 the next month, and you're like, okay, well, I paid the house payment 2 months ago. I think that was okay.
Yeah.
But it's not really a good way to run a business.
Right.
It's a great way if you want to experiment with technology, but not a great way to run a business. And so I had to get serious. I had a couple of people. I had kids getting older. College was looming, right? I started to start making some decisions. And so started to standardize. I started to get serious, started hiring people. I started growing. And I built a company around helping people solve these problems. And we started getting contracts with the county. We started, the fundamentals. And then about, 5-6 years ago, right a little bit before COVID, we realized that maybe the MSP market could use what we do. And so I built a program around helping MSPs with their escalation. How do you get in? How do you, level 3 is hard, right? I mean, you got level 1 is the guy that plugs in cables. Level 2 should be, by definition, a pretty good systems administrator, right? Most IT people barely make it there.
Yeah.
They just don't put the time in. Level 3, he's the guy that's probably solving everything the level 2 guy can't. Yeah. Right. And then level 4, if there is a level 4, I would argue that's variable depending on who you talk to, is really your architect. Right. He's really just a level 3 guy with a lot more skills to look across the level 3 tasks. Right. That's how I define this world. Whether it's right or wrong, you can judge. But I would say that most people tend to have a pretty solid bench of level 2s or a level 1.5s. Right, they get these guys that can do a lot of tasks. They're affordable. From a general marketplace perspective, you can get somebody out of school, give them a few years of training, they become pretty good. Most level 3s tend to be siloed. They tend to be, I know this thing well. I'm a SQL guy. I'm a cloud guy. Right, but that doesn't necessarily make what they're doing successful. It just makes it some way that you can account for that resource. Well, if you're going to be effective in managed service business, you need to be more consultative, right? And in order for this level 3 to be effective, you really need to be good in multiple disciplines, right? So ultimately, you need to build the advanced generalist, which is the opposite of what a large corporation wants, right? So the large corporations, the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, they want you to silo. Like, we want to hire a guy that's really good at that, and that's all he does. But if you go into a 400-person company and you're like, hey, I need to bring you this service, they're going to go, okay, well, I got these 19 technologies that I need to be a master of so we can be effective in our business operations. And then they go, okay, well, that means I need 19 individual level 3 guys who can do all those things. That's ridiculous, right? So it doesn't scale for regular size business. It's only good for the monopolies. And because the monopolies have all the money, that's where they send all of us packing to, right? Let's go do the training there because that's the one thing, right? So I've trained advanced generalists. You join my team and you become an advanced generalist. Why? Because I expose you to so much technology, it's impossible not to be, all right? I'm not, my guy that I hired 2 years ago isn't smarter than you, right? It's just he doesn't deal with one stack or one set of information. He deals with 25 different things. I asked one of my engineers, why do you like working here outside of me?
Of course.
And he says, I'll never leave you, boss. You're the greatest. And I said, well, thank you. Appreciate that. He said, so if you quit, if I fire you, you're still coming to work? And he said, oh, yeah, of course. And so we had, it was really good. I said, well, why do you really like working? He says, I can come into work every day. Even if some of the tasks are similar, nothing is the same. I learn something new every day. Just new adventure. There's a new opportunity. There's a new technology. It doesn't matter what. we could be exposed in a given week to 18 different firewall technologies. We're doing the new cloud thing before other people are doing the new cloud thing, because somebody in our pool of customers who's disparate and unique goes, I want to do this new cloud thing. Okay. So we go down that rabbit hole with them and we vet those things. So we get to kind of be the early adopters. We do the complicated things. And so we bring that to the table. I try to bring that service to MSPs because building a good technical team that can execute is hard.
Yes. Let me rewind for a second.
Sure.
Because you covered a lot.
Oh, of course.
But if I'm paying attention, it sounds like you built something like an MSP along the way.
Yes. So in the middle of all of that.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Where's the demarc?
So in the middle of all of that, right, we kind of had to become an MSP. I would at first it was without intention, right, and later became with intention.
Okay. Fair enough.
And that has to do with, I think, being honest with yourself as a business. Honestly, right? I mean, a couple of years ago, we decided we needed to be honest with ourselves as business. So when I say a couple of years, it's been COVID-ish. We're like, we need to be honest with ourselves as a business, and we decided, what does that mean, right? Well, there's a lot of values, right? Do we have processes? Do we have procedures? Do we have clear financial controls? Do we have the right people in the right jobs? Do we have customer service, or do we have just people who answer the phone? Do we have engineers, or do we have people that just dabble? Right? What do we have, right? And we had to define our company. And we became an intentional MSP, right? So we began to put together packages around the services necessary to help our clients. And then we niched a little bit around, we do some medical, we do energy pretty heavily. We have some other things. But those are the things that we tend to do very, very well. I don't know why. It's not like one day I woke up and said, it'd be great if I'm a HIPAA expert. That didn't happen. It just happened, and I found people I liked. I had some hospitals that just loved us, and we would step in and we would bail them out of these crazy jams, and the IT people would be like, you're amazing. Can you help us with these other things? And it just built and it built and built. We put together monthly recurring packages, and we just built it. And then we started managing it that way. And all of my concierge clients who are direct to us, we do something a little unique. If you're a direct client and you're unique, we give you a technical account manager that is dedicated to you. Now, you might split you with 4 people, because you don't want to pay one guy full time.
Right.
But you get this fantastic babysitter who looks after you. He acts as your quasi IT director. The big companies do that. The really big companies, right? They give it to you. If you work with AT&T, they're like, we're going to give you an account manager, right? And you get the account manager for their 100 AT&T clients, and they call and check on you all the time. And there's a relationship. And all of a sudden, you start doing $1 million in AT&T business. All of a sudden, you get a different account manager because he now only has 20 clients, right, or whatever that number is. And so we kind of said, this is something we want to be intentional about. If we're going to be serious about being an MSP, I want the customers that sign up with us to have the best experience I can provide them, which also means not everybody's going to be our customer.
Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Servosity. Servosity does 2 things very differently from any other backup and DR company. The first is they are maniacal about testing your backups daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Last, they're crazy enough to manage the backups and take over 80% of the operations. So it's done for you proactively, but allows you to put your hands on it to be the hero when needed. If you want all of that, plus immutable and unlimited storage, make sure to take a look at servosity.com. So help me understand that, because there's a lot in there to unpack.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Like I said, you signed up. We could be here for a long time. You got all day.
Well, I'm kind of trying to put you in a box, and that's a hard thing to do with you.
I'm very not a good box guy.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. I live outside the box all the time.
So you serve MSPs, you run an MSP,
That's
or
right.
both?
Both.
Okay.
So the MSP business is something we started doing to help MSPs probably, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago. I started before my last sales guy. We started down this road. And honestly, I about abandoned it 2 years ago. I pretty much gave up on them. Like, these guys are, because I'm going into MSPs and they're like, you're too expensive. You can't help us. And we're in all these MSPs we were talking to were living in a world of break fix.
Yeah.
And they were having a really hard time waking up and saying, you need to be a business. So now I found myself being a business coach, right?
Right.
You watched my speech, right, where I talked a little bit about, coming to the realization of some of those things. And I'm having these calls with people. I'm trying to sell them something, and instead I'm becoming a counselor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, if you did this, you would not have that problem anymore. Really? And then they would do that, and they'd call me back. That was amazing. What other thing can I do? And that became my conversations with people, but they're still not buying things.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's wonderful. I love to do that. I can be a missionary. Love to be a missionary. Love to minister, but ultimately I have children that are in college that I have to pay for, right?
Yes.
And so I had to have things that sold. And the problem was that I was turning into a charity. I was doing so much outreach, talking to so many providers. I'm like, I went to my staff and I said, I'm done. I think I'm going to give up on the MSP business. And my sales guys, no, we're talking to so many people. I said, we're talking to so many people that are doing nothing, right? They can't use our services. And so we really focused back in on kind of being niche for a little while. And we still did some of it. We didn't abandon it completely, but it became a non-priority, Well, then we got a couple of pretty good ones. And then we got a few more pretty good ones and a couple of more good ones. And it kind of we started to build some cadence. And I ended up getting several that were regular and succeeding. And I had case studies of good people that were working, and we built relationships. And that was moving along really nicely. And I went, well, this isn't a big market for us right now, right? That's like less than 20% of our revenue. But maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
And so we continued down that path, and we've done pretty good. I've probably got about 50 active MSPs right now. I've got several hundred in the database on the, what do you want to call it? We could call you / call you an emergency list. I have a bunch of them that I just happily call in an emergency.
Right.
But we charge a lot extra for that now.
Yeah.
That's something we started a couple of years ago. Like, okay, if you're not going to be on our books, you're not going to be a subscriber, you can require your customers to subscribe. If you're not going to subscribe to us, then we're going to be a penalty.
Yes.
And the penalty is twice as much.
Sure.
And we just had to. I had to have a wall because the people who didn't subscribe wanted the same level of service as the people who do subscribe, and that's not fair.
No.
Right? It's not right.
Right.
On top of being unfair and unrealistic. I can't. And the people who don't subscribe more often than not are the emergency people. Everything's a fire. And so we got into this pretty good cadence with these guys and started building and helping their business, seeing the outcomes of success on helping them and streamline and be more operational and reduce their problems and really kind of be that next level support for the things that they needed. And we enabled several of our customers to take on clients they never could have taken on before. I mean, I have a great testimonial from an MSP out of Atlanta where we visited for about an hour and we did an interview kind of like this. And he said, meeting you and spending time with you, been a customer for like 5 or 6 years, he said, is a game changer. He said, we can go into a sales meeting now and I never have fear that I can't do what they asked me to do. That alone is worth every penny of the subscription we pay you by itself. And then we just helped them close a $180,000 a year deal. Just helped them close it. We just did the pre-sales with them. We stepped in on a piece of it for like maybe 2 hours of stuff that they just weren't comfortable with. Customer were happy. Boom, 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 good to go. And I've got story after story after story like that. So it's not just the technical expertise that we're selling, right? It's not my job to just sell you technical expertise. It's my job to be a partner with you, help you try to grow what you're doing, help to be effective as being an MSP, and hopefully take some of our lessons learned and translate those.
Yeah. So if I'm listening and I was an MSP, so
Sure.
if I'm sitting there going, I
This
have
is cool.
lots of issues.
Right, exactly.
There's lots of things. Where are those ones you can help with? Where is that? Because there's
it's
technical,
interesting.
but there's kind of you transcend the business side.
Yep. And so it really takes a lot of interesting forms, right? So I would argue I probably got 4 or 5. I mean, I haven't really sat and quantified, but there's, 3, 4, 5 different categories of MSP, right? So if we start from the bottom, I've got the 1 or 2 man shop that lives in a perpetual state of hair on fire or quasi hair on fire, right?
Yeah.
That almost always 100% naturally, the subscription turns into a firefighting fest, right? They're opening tickets all the time. And this stuff might not even be level 3 things. A lot of times they're level 2 things, but they're resource bound, they're knowledge bound, and they're time bound. All of those things, right? I have no people, I have no time, and so we begin to stomp those out. If they're smart and they pay attention and they listen and they engage, I'm not giving them a manual of a rule book to follow, but we're having a conversation. if you're paying attention to the information we tell you in your tickets, if you're talking to the staff, if you're meeting with my customer service people and just talking, you bring us into your sales engagements and have conversations with us, all of a sudden you get better. And now you're not on fire all the time because we're going to stomp the fires out and we're going to come and see, hey, we can stomp all the fires out in this client if you let us do these things. Okay, yeah, do those things. And all the fires go out. Okay, now next client, right?
Right.
And ultimately these customers come out better than when they started if they listen. You get the every so often ones that stay on fire.
Sure.
Just never come out of fire. Next tier, I would say, is this, 3 to 5, maybe 7-ish MSP type people. Their world is a little bit different. So sometimes, if they're fortunate, they have one really smart guy, right? If they're fortunate. But that guy needs vacations. Had an MSP the other day. Yeah, I've been here 9 years. I'm the level 3 guy, never had a vacation.
Oh, my
ever.
goodness.
And he's like, I'm just about to pass out. I just can't do it anymore. He
Yeah.
said, I'm thinking about quitting.
Yeah.
He didn't want to tell the owner.
Right.
And I said, well, please don't quit.
Yeah.
What I really would like you to do is spend a week with my team, transition as much as your knowledge is humanly reasonable, right? We're not going to be you. That's not the goal. But the goal is to be effective while you're gone.
Yeah.
Please help us do that. And then I want you to go away for a month. Can you do that? We will make sure things are not burning down when you get back because you're going to tell us what not burning down means.
Nice.
And he went, yes. And he went away for a month.
And what did the owner think of that?
Oh, he was panicked. Oh my God. The owner calls me. He was totally panicked. He's going to go away for a month. And I'm like, it's going to be okay.
Did you place that idea?
Oh, I totally placed that idea. I'm like, oh yeah. I go to the owner. I said, you're going to lose this guy. Yeah. I didn't say, he told me he's going to leave.
Yeah,
I said, you are going to lose this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it is hands down 9 years. This guy's gone.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I pay him good. I said, nobody gets paid for 9 years and doesn't go on vacation ever. We've had a couple of sick days. I'm like, and the fact that that's in your head is a problem.
Yes.
I said, you need to walk away from this. You're too close. And he said, well, how long you been, and he had my resume. And so he was like, okay, well, you probably know what you're talking about. I'm like, I got numbers to tell you. I can prove that I know what I'm talking about, And so I said, ask my staff, right? Let's just call them. And ultimately, it worked out. And I've had more than one of those that I would like to admit, but 9 years is probably the longest. But I've had more than one of those. I mean, I had one guy we went into 4 years, hadn't had a vacation, 2 years, hadn't had a vacation. I had the business owners. I've had business owners call me. I've never had a vacation. I opened this company 5-6 years ago. I've never had a vacation, never taken my family anywhere. I would just really like to not answer the phone once.
Yeah.
And I would go, we'll take over. That's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you may or may not pay a premium for that. I had one use case where the guy, while he was gone, there was 60, 80 tickets. It was pretty expensive, right? But he still had his vacation unbothered. We didn't have to call him for anything. And there was another time the guy went on vacation. I think we had 4 tickets the entire time he was gone. He came back and we were like, oh, we forgot you were on vacation.
Yeah.
We were such a non-problem. Because when the guys are on vacation, a big announcement goes out to the whole team. This guy's going to be gone. We're going to be taking over, brush up on their material. Right? There's a whole internal process that we follow that reminds everybody that this is going to happen. And we forgot this guy went on vacation. We were all like, oh, that's right. He was gone. Yeah, no, everything was great.
That's hilarious.
Which was so funny. Internally we're like, oh, that's right. He left. But then there's the next tier, right? So there's this 9 to 15, 20 people. These people get a little different, right? Now they feel like, and I'm going to use the word feel on purpose, they feel like they got their act together.
Yeah.
Got my act together. I'm doing a pretty good job, right? But the reality is if at best you got 2, 3 level 3 guys, they're all running the ship on their own, almost always. They're doing their own thing. They're silent, and everybody who's watching this knows what I'm talking about, right? They're running the ship on their own. You probably can't tell them what to do. If you're lucky, you got one who's really collaborative, maybe. If you have 3 guys who are super collaborative right now and they're level 3 and they bang everything out, count your blessings and pay them whatever it takes to keep them.
Yeah,
it's that simple. And I mean, I'm not joking. It is. It's that difficult. And if they can solve all your problems and keep your customers happy and they're not overburdened and they get their weekends and they get their vacation time, and then you have a hell of a team and you need to keep that team whatever you have to do. I mean, I don't care what you have to bend over backwards. It is too difficult. I've watched too many. I had an MSP in the Georgia area. I don't remember where he was, rural Georgia somewhere. He had 3 guys, paying them really decent wages. They'd been there 5 years, incredible guys, and we worked with them for 4 or 5 years. Really good engineers. We trained them up through our team working together with them. They were, we had really good collaboration. I knew all of them on a first name basis. I knew their kids' names, right? Really cool team. And one day the business owner calls me, and I do meet the business owner about once a quarter. We just chat. It was just a business owner business. My cell phone ring. Hey man, let's just chat. Okay, we talk business and relationships and stuff. And he calls me. He goes, man, he said they all quit today. All of them.
Wow.
I can't run my company.
Right.
I literally don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I said, was I your first call? He said, yes. I said, then good. You did the right thing.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what this is going to cost, but I'm not going to charge you full rate. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to make you survive. We're going to get through this together. We're going to figure it out. And I said, right now you forward every ticket to my ticket system. You forward every phone call to my phone call board. We're going to figure it out. I gave him a white label line. We answered the phone with his name. And that took me half a day to set all that up, but we set it, did it, started handling it. He lost no customers in that window. Matter of fact, his customers started calling him and saying, man, what did you do? We get to the best customer service ever. This is great. I said, but this is not sustainable at the price that I'm charging you.
Yes.
Right? This is a month to get us through while we go find people. Go find people, right? So he went and found people. I helped him interview a couple of people. I took my personal time, didn't charge him, helped him interview a couple of people. We found a couple of engineers, brought them online. I said, now we're handing back, right? But we're here now. We know your customer base. Those guys can ask us. So flurry, couple weeks, right? Flurry, activity, questions. Then it starts toning down, right?
Yeah.
And then we were able to put him back on his normal maintenance plan and his normal subscription. And I think he started out, we had to bump him up because we do subscription plans a certain number of hours a month. And I had to bump him up, I think, to like 40 or 60 hours for that next couple of months at the real rate.
Yeah.
So I'm not dying before we put him back down to where he was, which I think was like a 10 or 20 hour rate. So if you have partners in the industry, you can do amazing things. If you look at the availability of options that are out there, you can do amazing things. But it's a reality that these are challenges, practical challenges that MSPs have to face. The level 3 piece of it is only the level of smarts and the cost, right? It's the process, it's the execution, it's the people it's the right resource for the job. I can't tell you how many times we have something come in, even in my world, where we do a good job at this, and an engineer picks it up and starts down the hole, and they get 2 hours in, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm not the right engineer for this job, right? I have the skill, but somebody has to have done this before, and why am I doing this now? Mm-hmm. And there's a self-reflection, and then you hit the team and like, hey man, has anybody else done this already? Because I'm like 2 hours into this thing. And another guy goes, oh yeah, man, I did one of those last week. Let me show you what you're missing. Mm-hmm. Boom, pops in, collaborate, blah, blah, blah. That 2 hour thing now becomes an hour thing, and everybody wins. Right? You can't do that in an MSP.
Yeah.
Because the MSP, you know what he sees? The same stack every day, same systems. And more often what he's going to do is if he adopts a new client, he's going to do everything he can to convert that client to his stack and his hardware.
You got to have one stack.
Because, yeah, right? That's what they tell you. Mm-hmm. Got to have one stack because you can't learn it all.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we're in a really interesting market because we're supporting so many different things. We get this thing, and people will call sometimes and they'll go, can you guys do this? And we're like, I don't know, but we can do this, and this that are all very, very similar. So probably, right? And they give it to us, and we knock it out of the park in a couple hours. And they're like, well, that was cool because our guy spent like 2 days on it, got nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's something to be said for that exposure and that, you know, in that world. And so there comes a point in the MSP story, you know, when you're in the 7 to 15, right? There becomes a point where there's an emotion attached to how big they are and how much they should be able to do internally. And they don't want to have conversations with people like me anymore, right? They don't want to outsource. They view us as some sort of outsource help desk, but that's not what we are. We're a partner. I mean, it's truly everything we do is a partner. And the story I just told you is a perfect example. And I've got 50 more of those. Mm-hmm. And that partnership is missing. I'm a people guy. I bring the people to the equation. I want my staff to bring every customer happy and want to be there. Are we perfect? No. We're engineers in a box. Of course, we're not perfect, right? I got great account managers who communicate beautifully, right? But there's engineers, right? Yeah. I mean, they're smart. They do have people skills, but they're engineers.
Yep.
Okay? We're the people.
We can all relate to that.
Yeah, right? We're the people, you slide the pizza under the door and we make the world go round. Yeah. We're not the guys you put in front of mom and we give a beautiful speech on the wedding day. Right. It's not happening, right? And so those are the things that people just have to come to grips with, right? You even if we're good at what we do, let us be good at what we do. Yeah. Let us problem solve. You know, let us move that ball. But as they get to the certain size, there's this we don't want to partner, we don't need you kind of mindset that begins. I start seeing it in these 12 and 15 people. And the reality is those are people that need us the most. They need a partner. They need someone who can help their people be better and give their people, even if they only used us 10 hours a month or 5 hours a month, you know what? Your team of 3, 4, 5 engineers now has a whole nother team adjacent to them that they can brainstorm off of. The value in that is immeasurable, immeasurable. My team, when I bring my guys, I hired a guy, and this is my last funny story about this, but I hired a guy a couple of years ago, about 4 years now maybe. I hired him, young guy. One of these guys worked at an MSP, built himself to the top. Well, he'll know if he watches this, he'll know. This guy worked at the top, worked his way to the top, quit, worked his way to the top, quit, worked his way to the top, right? Well, our interview process, we do a personal interview. You got to get through Nancy. She's my gal. You got to get through my Nancy. If you get through my Nancy, then you get to me, all right? You get to me. If I like you, you get a technical interview, all right? If you survive the technical interview, you meet the team. We put you on video with the whole level 3 team, okay?
Wow.
If the team likes you, and I've only had one engineer shot down by the team, only one. If the team likes you, you get a job, all right? It's the only way this works. I'm going to see you more than I see my wife on video. I want to like you.
Yeah.
It's that simple,
Yeah.
okay? I'm not hiring you exclusively for your technical talent. You have to have a certain level of technical talent to get there, but I'm not looking for the smartest, the bestest, and the brightest. That's not what I want. I want somebody who's teachable, who's communicatable, who's proven they can work, they have work ethic, who's proven that they can learn. I need you to learn, right? This guy comes in. He's normally the smartest guy in the room everywhere he goes. I mean, hands down. You can tell by talking to him. Smartest guy in the room everywhere he goes, right? And we put him on the video with the team. And we're in there about 10 minutes. And he goes, "This is the most amazing experience I ever had." And we went, "Really? What's going on?" He goes, "Everyone in this room is smarter than me. This is cool." I'm the dumbest guy on the call. I've never experienced this. This is awesome. And it was this mental shift. And it was a mental shift not just for him, but for my team.
Yeah.
They went, "Oh, yeah, well, of course we do. This is what we do every day."
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting, and almost in a lot of ways, it was a big cultural shift for us because it helped everybody realize, this is a guy who's done everything, right? And then he feels like he's the dumbest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, "I want this job. I mean, he says, I want the salary, but I almost would not take it, but I want the job because I want to be able to know what the environment is that can produce people like this."
Yeah.
And I mean, it is not uncommon for me to hire an engineer and 2-3 years later, they're 5, 10 times the engineer they started. I didn't do anything. It's not like I'm sitting there putting them through training and you should do this and take this test. And blah, blah. I do none of that. You know what we do? We collaborate. We work together every day. "Hey, this is really cool. Have you seen this before?" And that becomes the conversation. What's the exposure, right? And we are blessed, God-given, totally blessed with the opportunity to have that exposure where a traditional MSP doesn't. So I'm like, well, I want to share that exposure, right? How do I share that? And that's kind of what we do with our level 3 team.
This is really good, Keith.
Fantastic.
I would love to talk further.
We could another day, maybe.
Another day.
We could do Zoom. But you got to send me a coat.
We could do something like that. Got to send you a coat.
Got to send me a coat. I have a coat.
Yeah.
I even want a T-shirt.
There you go. I like that.
I could do the T-shirt and the coat.
There you go. Thank you for your time. I know
You're
that
very
you could be
welcome.
talking to so many people at the
I've
SGM Summit.
had a good time. Well, they all booked my time, so it worked out perfect. I think you booked last, which was perfect.
Yeah.
So it worked out good.
Thank you for this. For everybody listening, how should they find you, your company, you online?
We are super easy to find, ECXsystems.com. You can hit me on LinkedIn. I do answer the messages if I think you're real.
Yes.
So I'm happy to talk to you. I have a fantastic, if you send an email to sales@ECXsystems.com, a fantastic frontline team. I do talk personally to everyone. So you are welcome to get on my calendar, talk to me, visit with me. I tend to book 7 to 15 new customer meetings a week if I can. And those are educational meetings. I'm not trying to sell you something. It's like we just learn about each other and whether we can partner. I mean, I hold a meeting to see if there's synergy.
Yep.
Some people click with me, some people don't. If they click, great. We end up working together at some point. I have partners all over the world. I go out of my way to send business to people if I can. I've got a partner, I got an MSP out in, I think Minnesota, and I got a customer that we're talking to in the area who wanted a referral. I'm like, well, I'm not there.
Yeah.
I called him up. Hey, would you like it? I'd love to have new business. Here you go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we do. I forgot, I had one MSP, he had 2 locations. He was in New Orleans, but he had a customer opening a branch in Chicago. And so he calls me up and he's like, hey, do you know anybody in Chicago? I'm like, yeah, I know a couple of MSPs. Called a guy in Chicago, called 3 MSPs in Chicago. One guy was like, no, I don't want it. Another guy said, yeah, hey, you want it? You're like, yeah, I'll take that. I just connected him and got out of the way. A year later, I talked to the guy in New Orleans. I'm like, hey, did that work out for you? I remember you called me about that. He says, oh, yeah, we're still doing business together. It's great. We both make money. Oh, okay. Well, great. Thanks. I think everybody should know each other. They should try to work together.
That's right.
And it's not always going to click. It's not always going to work. And I don't feel bad. If you call me up and you're like, yeah, I tried your thing. It doesn't work. Well, shoot. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Tell us about your friends that might like us.
Yeah.
But, it's the nature of business. You try to find people that you work with. I mean, we're never going to be the cheapest. We're never going to be the easiest to get along with in every single circumstance. We're going to make mistakes. We're human.
Sure.
I just try to make it a better, honest human interaction.
I love that.
So
Better, honest human interaction.
that's what we try to do. Nancy holds me accountable.
Everybody needs a Nancy.
Everybody needs Nancy, man. I'm telling you. Everybody needs Nancy. When I hired my CFO, she's like, Nancy seems to know everything.
That's hilarious.
And I said, yeah. I said, she's Nancy. She knows everything. And they're like, and then these jobs would come up about that would we were doing this integration with NetSuite. And she says, I don't think anybody else knows this but Nancy. It was this interesting conversation. Maybe only Nancy can do that. And I was like, well, it's either me or Nancy at this point. Because and she's been with me so long, she's one of these people that everybody wishes they had, that makes themselves indispensable. Mm-hmm. And then probably weekly ask me, am I doing everything you want me to do, boss?
That's awesome.
I love you, man. I love you, Nancy.
That's right.
Watch this. I love you. And and it's just really true. You find really good people, and what makes my business work, honestly, is my people. I mean, I couldn't do any of it without my people. They're amazing. I have amazing people. We don't have any toxic people.
That's awesome.
Do we have stupid silliness that happens or people get upset at stuff? Of course.
Sure.
We're all human.
Right.
But I have no toxic people.
That's awesome.
Right? Everybody can work together. Everybody does work together. There's rules that everybody tries to follow. We bend them sometimes, but we're people, and we do a really good job at doing that. And I think we also do a really good job of communicating to our customers that we're people, and we know they're people, and we want to work with you as people. The problem we're solving and the thing we're doing for you is the thing we're doing for you to help you out. But we're all people. Let's work together. Let's talk. Let's communicate. If we're failing in communicating, please let us know. Right?
I love that.
I'm not gonna do it on purpose. Play honest ever.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, I came to this conference and you sent me an email and you're expecting me to get back to you because I always do. I'm sorry, I'm at a conference.
Yeah.
I'm doing my darndest.
Yeah.
Maybe Nancy will tell you.
Yeah. That's right. I love that. People are the difference. We should definitely talk further.
Yeah.
But I know that it's been a gift already, at least for me.
Well, thank you.
To have you here. So thank you for
so much.
being on MSP Mindset.
I've had a good time.